Hello and welcome to Behind the Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Maria Shabla, and today we're excited to be present at the 10th annual EOD, IED, and Countermine Symposium hosted by Defense Strategies Institute. Today we're excited to be speaking to Sean Haglund, Associate Director of the Office for Bombing Prevention CISA. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us, Sean.
You bet, thanks for having me.
Great. So Sean, you are a former Air Force EOD technician yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into EOD and your career?
Sure. It was an interesting career. I actually joined the Air Force when I was 18, went directly into EOD as a young enlisted EOD tech.
Wow.
I was enlisted for about 6 years, went to officer training school, and was able to come back and do another 19 years as an EOD officer. So 25 years in the career field, split between enlisted and officer time. And in that time, really a lot of interesting assignments. I was able to command several large units, including Hill Air Force Base, one of our bigger Air Force EOD units out in Utah. Deployed several times over to the CENTCOM theater in Iraq to lead units in combat over there, and then some staff positions as well. So I was on the Defense Threat Reduction Agency staff doing counter weapons of mass destruction work, and then on the U.S. CENTCOM staff leading the U.S. CENTCOM EOD operations. So it was a good 25 years.
Wow, I bet that is just amazing. 25 years as an EOD technician. I don't meet a lot that came in as an enlisted 18-year-old into EOD. That's incredible. Okay, so today, Sean, you were speaking on the topic of enhancing DHS IED prevention and mitigation efforts to bolster infrastructure resiliency. Whew, that's a mouthful.
It is.
So can you give us your key takeaways from your talk today?
Sure. So CISA, as you mentioned, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, not only leads our nation's efforts to protect our cyber infrastructure, but also our physical infrastructure. And that's where we operate, and is under that physical protective security mission that CISA has. And so the Office for Bombing Prevention really serves kind of a twofold mission. We lead the efforts across the department to coordinate our implementation of the National Counter-IED Strategy, so that allows us to integrate the roles and responsibilities of TSA, FEMA, Secret Service, the different operational components across DHS that have equities in the IED mission space. But then kind of at the more operational or tactical level, we provide resources to our federal, state, local, private sector, and the general public partners to prevent bombing attacks. And so the kind of the key takeaways from the briefing today were that one, the threat is real. It's been a while since we've seen a significant high consequence bombing in the U.S. Really, probably Nashville is the most recent one that kind of comes to people's minds, but Oklahoma City, World Trade Center, Boston Marathon, those things don't happen often in the country, and so it tends to kind of, we tend to kind of lose focus on the threat being real. But if you look at what it takes to carry out a bombing, all the materials that you need to build a very effective bomb are available online or probably within a couple minutes drive of here at hardware stores, pool supply stores, pharmacies. You can buy everything you need to build a very effective bomb just through the retail network. And then the instructions are all available online, like very detailed instructions on how to build a very effective bomb. That's how the Nashville bomber had no prior experience, just was able to buy the materials and get the instructions he needed to build a very effective bomb. And so the threat is real. It could happen at any moment, and if we lose sight of that, we drop our guard. Certainly we don't want to wake up to another Oklahoma City bombing, for sure. So what we do in the Office for Bombing Prevention is we try and build defense in depth, and we offer resources to those partners on how to recognize suspicious purchasing patterns, how to recognize suspicious behaviors, how to better prepare their facility or their event for bombing incidents, bomb threats. And so that's really where we focus our attention in the Office for Bombing Prevention.
Wow, that is incredible, and it's scary, honestly. Is there a current example of how your resources are being utilized that you can share with us?
Certainly. So last January, we saw a pretty significant spike in bomb threats targeting historically black colleges and universities. During that time frame, the couple months following the first spike in threats, we saw over 50% of the HBCUs in the United States receive threats, and some of those institutions received several threats in a day. So lockdowns, evacuations, shelter in place. People don't always understand that while a device isn't necessarily found in association with a lot of those bomb threats, there's still real-world consequences. You've got operational disruption, financial impacts to these institutions, emotional and psychological impacts on the students and the faculty thinking that there might be a bomb in their immediate presence. And so those are all consequences we see kind of on the targeted end, but there are also consequences in terms of just limited resources. You're taxing the bomb squads, the explosive detection canines, having to respond to all these threats. So there are real consequences associated with that. And then just more recently, in light of the conflict that we see in Israel, we've seen another uptick in threats facing the faith-based communities. And so what the Office for Bombing Prevention does is we engage with those communities and we provide them the resources they need to build an effective bomb threat management plan. And the reason that's important is it builds confidence across the student base, across all your stakeholders, everyone who's involved in that community. It builds confidence and allows you to effectively deal with the threat. You certainly don't want to build complacency and not take those threats seriously, because there certainly could be a device. So you do need to conduct a search. You need to have those pre-existing relationships with law enforcement and the bomb tech community. But realistically, once we have that bomb threat plan in place and we can exercise it, it reduces a lot of the consequences. So you're able to restore operations more quickly if you have a good plan in place that you've practiced, and it builds confidence. So in a HBCU instance or a university, a campus scenario, once the students realize we have a plan, we know how to manage this, I don't have to be scared because I know everybody knows what to do, and their focus is on keeping me safe, that helps a lot also. There's no way to prevent the communication of a bomb threat. They can be written, phoned in, so many different social media platforms where threats can be conveyed. You really can't prevent receiving a threat. You have to take that threat, manage it effectively, and try and restore operations as quickly as you can. And so that's the services that we provide.
Wow, that is incredible, and it's so far-reaching. So I would imagine that anybody listening to this podcast might think, does my organization that I belong to have a bomb threat plan? And so if not, for any of our listeners, I would encourage you to look into that. And so anybody listening who works somewhere that doesn't have a plan, what would your advice be to them?
So you've got a couple different options. You can reach out directly to OBP, and that's at our website, cisa.gov/OBP. Or CISA also has a regional field force, so spread across the U.S. They have protective security advisors that are at the state and local level, and that's another local contact point that you can use to get back directly to OBP. So you really have two ways to access the resources.
That is incredible. Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you took the time to talk to us, because that's such valuable information, and thank you for everything that you're doing in your current role.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, we're going to end this with asking you a couple of your favorite things, just like we do on our podcast. So what is your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
That's a great question.
Are you always working?
Answering email, right? My family is very engaged in ice hockey. So
Really?
I've got a 13-year-old daughter, a 17-year-old son. They both play travel hockey. I have coached them for many years.
Wow.
My son plays on the high school team as well, so he's got a varsity game this Friday.
Aw.
And then I play on kind of the old man's beer league. So I've got usually some bruises after the weekend to show
wow.
my friends at work. But so I would say we spend a lot of time traveling up and down the East Coast playing hockey. So.
Wow, that is awesome. I didn't expect ice hockey.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, and then my last question is, what's your favorite thing about Washington, D.C.?
It's not the traffic. No, I would say one interesting thing here, and I didn't grow up here, but my kids are growing up here in high school. There's just so much for them to do and see here that you just can't find in a lot of other places. And so there's just the diversity, the opportunity to see so many different things is just unparalleled. And so I would say that's probably one of my favorite things about living here. Is it's a great opportunity for your kids to really get a sense of a lot of different cultures and histories and museums and so many things here. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again, Sean, so much for taking the time to talk with us.
you bet. Thank you.